All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Behind the Grind. So, we're just about a year into Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. We're currently sitting at the brink of the 11th month as the game came out in September of last year, and well, we're about to head into August. And since we got the June community update, well, we got a lot of new information regarding some new content that is coming to Space Marine 2. However, we have no mention of the one and only Iron Hands, the forgotten chapter that Games Workshop and Saber seems to forget about, and well, they kind of seem to be doing that in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 as well. So I just kind of wanted to turn on the mic a little bit to kind of talk about where the hell are the Iron Hands and whether or not we'll be seeing the Techmarine anytime soon. So before we begin, I want to ask you to please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Also, let's take a moment to thank our channel members for supporting the Behind the Grind YouTube channel. Joining will give you access to some cool perks like adding me as a friend and playing some games together. Your help means a lot, and if you're interested in being a channel member, check out the information in the description down below. Thank you. And without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the Iron Hands, the Techmarine, and the overall neglect that Space Marine 2 has been getting from Saber Interactive. So, going based off of the June community update, as you guys can see on screen, at the top, we have what comes after year 1. So, this is kind of misleading because it tells the audience that is currently reading this article that this is stuff that is coming after the 1-year anniversary of Space Marine 2. Now, it does detail that it's going to get a large-scale update planned for the anniversary, which will be the 10.0 major update. With this update, we get some new Chaos customization like the Chaos Champions that were leaked a while ago. I have a video on that if you want to go ahead and check it. We're going to get Hellbrute Assault, and we're going to get the Power Axe. However, as you guys can see at the bottom, they say that finally, we announced a while ago that we are working on a new class for PvE and PvP. We're now advanced enough in its development to announce that the new class will be a Techmarine. We'll reveal more about this new class in the next community updates, so stay tuned. Going based off of that and that alone, it's not necessarily clear that this is coming with the patch 10.0 update. If it was, they would have deliberately come out and said so, but as you guys can see, they're not going to say anything until the next community updates, which should be here pretty soon for the July community update. So, common sense would lead everyone to believe that the Iron Hands would be able to get the champion pack for the Techmarine, but we all know Saber. All we need for this champion pack is that somehow we get a Raven Guard or a Blood Angels champion skin for the Techmarine. But, you know, going back to common sense, you would think that Iron Hands equals Techmarine, but once again, we already know Saber. Going back to what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Games Workshop already neglects the Iron Hands. I mean, go ahead and look at the new combat patrol they just got for the tabletop, and this is probably one of the worst combat patrols I've ever seen. You get no variety, you get no unique characters, you just get 2 squads of heavy intercessors, you get 2 manned turrets, and you just get a Techmarine at the front. But that's the most important part for me personally. Is this Games Workshop telling us that we are going to get the Techmarine as the Iron Hands champion for Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2? Let me know in the comment section down below. Games Workshop in and of themselves are aware of the fact that the only way that the Techmarine champion would make sense is if you give it to the Iron Hands. I think it's also pretty interesting to see that when they released the images for the Salamanders pack, guess what we don't see? We don't see any Salamanders Eliminator Snipers. So that just kind of confirms that this was a Saber decision and not necessarily from Games Workshop, because I have seen a lot of people say that, oh, it was Games Workshop's idea to have these Salamanders as a sniper skin. No, the fuck it wasn't. It was completely a Saber Interactive call. Games Workshop knows their people better than we think, and you can see that clearly in the fact that they did not have an Eliminator Sniper in the Salamander's Combat Patrol. But anyways, it just goes to show that Saber is somehow jumping in on the hate as well. If it was planned ever since the beginning to neglect the Iron Hands up until the release of the Techmarine, that's one thing. However, we haven't even gotten an Iron Hands champion leaked. As you guys already know, a couple of weeks ago, I made a video in which I talked about the leaked Black Templars champion that is coming soon to the Bulwark class. Now, if you guys didn't already know, sure, the Black Templars have their own codex in Warhammer 40k Tabletop, however, it is a second founding chapter. So not only has this skin been leaked before the Iron Hands champion, but there's no reason to get second founding cosmetics until we get all of the original chapters from the Loyalist Legions Astartes. Yes, we already have cosmetics for Ultramarines, Salamanders, Imperial Fists, White Scars, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Raven Guard, but we haven't had anything from the Iron Hands. The fact that the Black Templars champion has already been leaked prior to anything related to Iron Hands is really upsetting, and I have a lot of questions. You would think that they would try to get the first founding chapters out of the way first before diving into the Black Templars, but maybe they're really good at hiding the Iron Hands champion, and that's one thing that is kind of interesting to me because they haven't done a pretty good job at hiding any of the other cosmetics. The data miners are pretty good at what they do, and I just kind of think that they're doing Black Templars before they do Iron Hands, which is very concerning to me personally. Moving on with the Iron Hands champion pack as a whole, the only way that I think a lot of people would be satisfied given the complete and total neglect that the Iron Hands have been getting from not only Games Workshop and Saber Interactive in all of this time is that they need to have a full chapter release. Like, we need to get an Iron Hands champion, a chapter cosmetic pack in which we get all the successors and all the iconography, and we also need the armor pieces to bring this all together. The fact that a lot of these chapter packs have been released in some of the most weirdest ways imaginable is really quite concerning. Personally, to me, the best way they could have done this is they started off pretty strong with the Dark Angels chapter pack, in which we got the champion, armor pieces, some cosmetics, heraldry, all that kind of stuff. However, once they started moving forward with it, they started to split it between two different chapters at a time. In my personal opinion, there's no reason why the Space Wolves needed to release alongside the Imperial Fists, or that the Raven Guard needed to release alongside the Salamander's champion, or just recently we got Blood Angels alongside White Scars. Why didn't we just focus on one chapter every month? God knows why, but whatever. Moving on from the Iron Hands getting a full chapter, once again, I just want to ask, where the hell are the Raven Guard and the Blood Angels champions? We haven't seen anything from them, and if we're going off of what Space Marine 1 did, not every single chapter got a champion pack, so I'm still pretty concerned as to whether or not the Raven Guard and the Blood Angels are eventually going to get a champion. Yes, the Imperial Fists are getting a chapter pack here pretty soon, but that doesn't necessarily mean the same is going to happen for the Raven Guard and the Blood Angels. And with all that being said, the skeleton crew at Saber is really just killing the game at this point. Sure, the game wasn't expected to be this successful, however, post-release, they really needed to lock in on the extreme success that this game got, and they really needed to allocate the resources to this game in order to push out more content. I see a lot of comments all the time being like, oh, well, the content in this game is free for the most part. All you have to do is pay for chapters and all that kind of stuff. And one of the biggest criticisms that I personally get is that, oh, well, none of this stuff is stuff that you had to pay for. All of this free content, like these operations, this siege mode, this was all free, to which I say it really wasn't, because a lot of us bought the ultra editions to this game and like the deluxe editions, and all of those extra proceeds went towards funding the post-launch of this game. So to an extent, it wasn't free. And the money they made off of this game should have been damn near enough to fund not only a whole new team to come in to provide more and more content, but to actually fund the content in and of itself. So once again, I just want to really say that while I do love Space Marine 2, we're nearing the year point already, and for a year in review, Space Marine 2 is pretty upsetting. We got 2 weapons, both were pistols by the way. We got 3 new operations maps, we got 1 new PvP map, and we got a pretty mediocre siege mode. So with all that being said, what do you guys think about the Iron Hands neglect, the Techmarine not coming anytime soon, and what are you expecting for patch 10.0? Are you expecting some cool event for the anniversary of Space Marine 2? Go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel for more content. Also, if you wish to support the channel further, I'd encourage you to join the channel membership for exclusive perks. Thanks. This has been Behind the Grind totally not hating on the Iron Hands because I like the Iron Hands. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!